Hey guys, what's up? Jake here, and today in this video we're going to be talking about some of the pros and cons of living in Argentina as a foreigner. I think I have a pretty good idea for what it is one could expect from this place, particularly from the perspective of some of you guys who are perhaps digital nomads or aspiring digital nomads. If you have any questions that pop up in your head as you're watching this video, just leave a comment down below or shoot me a DM on Instagram and I'll do my best to answer you there. So let's go ahead and get into the video. I'm gonna start off with some of the pros. So like I said, I've been here on and off for the past 6 months. I've spent the majority of my time here. I was in Colombia for a while before this, and I was looking for something a little bit different because I've spent a lot of time in Colombia, and Argentina hit a lot of this that I was looking for and craving in terms of just something different. So some of the pros that I find here are in a lot of ways contrasted with some of the things that I felt were cons in other parts of Latin America or Colombia, and maybe even some parts of the United States as well. I would say one of the biggest pros of being here is that while being in Latin America, it is relatively quite safe. Now, obviously there's a caveat to that. You go certain places, certain neighborhoods, depending on the city that you're in, there's obviously always barrios or neighborhoods where there's gonna be dangerous spots. I plan on going soon. I haven't been yet, but for example, Rosario is a city that everyone says is very quite dangerous. I think Lionel Messi's family even got kidnapped there or something one time. But it definitely, in comparison to other areas of Latin America, like in Brazil or Colombia, Ecuador, some of these places, it definitely has a lot higher safety. I think a lot of that just has to do with the demographics of Argentina. It's just a little more European overall. I don't feel the same level of like danger walking around everywhere. When you're traveling some places, you get like a sixth sense of like danger level, even if there's maybe not anything directly in front of you that's signal. There's not a person wielding a knife in front of you or anything like that, but you'll still feel like, okay, this is definitely an area that I shouldn't be in. Like if you're in Medellin and El Centro, you just get this like eerie feeling like I just need to get the fuck out of here. And you don't get that feeling nearly as much here. Now, if you're walking around at night with your phone out, being an idiot, maybe, depending on the area, again. But I usually stay in, I think, pretty safe areas. On top of that, I would say another big pro is that it's quite cheap. Now, this comes with the caveat that it changes quite a bit. So I was here like in November-ish of last year, 2023, and there was a period of time like around like March, February of this year, 2024, where the difference in prices of like groceries was like 3x. I was here like back last November and it was cheaper than Colombia. It was a lot cheaper than Colombia. And then like in February, March, it was all of a sudden more expensive than Colombia. And a lot of this has to do with just the fluctuations that happen a lot with the pricing here. It's a very unstable economy. You would expect there to be a lot more social unrest for how unstable the economy is. For the like if Colombia was experiencing the same level or Ecuador was experiencing the same level of economic instability, it would be like hell on earth. But relatively speaking, despite the economic fluctuations, things do remain somewhat civilized here. Recently, there's a new president, Milei, who's came into power, and he's doing various things with the economy and with the government. Right now, when I'm making this video, June 2024, things are relatively stabilized a little bit. I think right now the current blue dollar exchange rate is 1200 pesos per US dollar, and it's been stable at that for a little bit. And I would say the prices right now are pretty cheap. Another kind of small pro is that it has really good architecture. I know this is something that's probably just particular to me. There's many blocks and blocks in Buenos Aires, for example, where you just have beautiful architecture after beautiful architecture, like these really beautifully built buildings. And that's something that I appreciate. I think it makes a difference on your mind when you're around that. Whereas in Colombia and in some of these Ecuador, some of these other places, there's a lot of these like shanty towns all over the place. And it just gives you this feeling like if you're ever taking the metro thing in Medellin that takes you above the metro cable, and you look down and you see all these like shanty towns and just like these discombobulated houses where there's not even the roofs are like falling apart. It doesn't give you a great feeling. But there's something about architecture that I really appreciate, and so that's like a small thing that I like, that I think is nice. And this next pro I've touched on already is that I think there's less chaos in general. So I think that which again could be a good or bad thing. I think in Colombia, Brazil, Ecuador, some of these places, you have this feeling of a bit of a chaos everywhere you go, where the people there, they have a very lively spirit, and that can just There's a lot of times where I'm just in like Ubers or whatever with these characters, in Colombia. And I know a lot of you have been down there, probably know what I'm talking about, where it's just there's just a very lively, kind of unexpected way of living there. Here's a little more laid back while still getting that Latin kind of feeling of adventure that I think you find in a lot of Latin America. And so it's obviously probably a little more chaotic and lively than, say, like United States or some parts of Europe, but it's not quite as like off the deep end that you might find in some other countries in Latin America. Another big pro for me is the food. My diet here is almost every single day I eat steak, sauerkraut, eggs, orange juice. There's a really good quality food here. The only thing that they don't have is access to high quality milk and stuff like that. For some reason, there's one milk brand here and you can't get raw milk or anything like that, and it's highly processed. But other than that, the food here is really good. The main Argentinian cuisine is like empanadas, which aren't fried like in Colombia, pizzas, steak, like asado, like grilled meat, stuff like that. They have really good meat quality here. You can actually get like good cuts of steak here, and it's really cheap too. I think I just got a couple like big steaks, 2 big steaks from the store, and it was like, I don't know, it was maybe like $5 or $6 or something like that. In the US, it probably would have been more like $15, $16 for the quality and the size that I was getting. You can eat very much like a king here, and I like the food here overall. It can get a little repetitive if you're not in Buenos Aires, because if you're anywhere outside of Buenos Aires, it's pretty much just like pizza, empanadas, and a few other small things here or there. But other than that, there's also mate. A lot of people drink mate. I'm actually addicted to it now. The tea that people drink. It's actually really good because it kills your appetite. It's a good thing to drink while you're just trying to read or focus on something. It's actually like pretty good. It's like a good alternative to coffee and caffeine. But anyways, so that being said about some of the pros, one other last pro that I think I'll mention for some of you that are interested. A lot of you guys go to Latin America because you're interested in dating. I'd say for me, it's just the types of girls I've been meeting here are much more kind of my speed or what I'm into. Physically, like I like girls that are whiter, that are more European looking, and you can find that here while they still have kind of that Latin American demeanor. Whereas in Colombia, Brazil, other places, Ecuador, they're more darker, a little shorter, more curvy. So some of you guys are really into that. I don't know. I'll talk more about that in another video. You can reach out to me on Instagram if you want to talk specifically more about that. But anyway, so getting into some of the cons, I would say that some of the biggest cons here is getting money. So the fact that you have to go to Western Union, like your ATM, if you go to an ATM here, you can't really extract that much money. Like it's almost not like you can extract like a couple bucks. That's really not a lot. And then the fee to extract that money is like almost half of whatever it is that you're taking out. Going to an ATM like almost just doesn't make sense. So I send money to myself via Western Union, and it's actually pretty easy to do that, but the con is that then you have to go to Western Union, and so now you have to go, and so if you go at the wrong time, you might have a line, and so that can be a bit of a hassle. At the end of the day, I think it's still worth it for the benefit that you're getting in the exchange rate, just how good you're getting like for your money, but it is like not the most convenient thing. And depending on, you can use credit cards, which give you generally a good rate. So essentially there's like a government rate, and then there's like an official rate for the currency exchange, and then there's a blue dollar rate. The blue dollar rate is what the currency is actually worth, and then the official rate is what the government says it's worth. And there's a complete disconnect there. So if you use the wrong debit card or bank, you might be getting the official rate, which right now is like 50% more expensive than if you get the blue dollar rate. But certain credit cards will give you the blue dollar rate if you use them. You just have to research and look at your bank and all that stuff. Another con is the changing inflation. So right now things are pretty cheap. There's no telling what's going to happen next month, for example. Things can change really quickly, and there's not really any clear way of identifying whether or not prices are going to be up, prices are going to be down, inflation is going to go up. Inflation almost never goes down, but sometimes it does a little bit. So there's a lot of kind of uncertainty in the economy here. So it almost makes you like a little bit hesitant to be like, oh, I'm going to commit to this place for a long period of time, because you really have no idea how different the economic situation is going to be. And another like kind of small con is I would say that nature, this again is very relative. In Colombia, everywhere you go, not everywhere you go, but generally you have mountains and waterfalls and rivers and beaches and everything like that, like a jungle atmosphere all over the place. And in Argentina, most likely, if you're going to be in Buenos Aires, for example, a lot of Argentina is very flat. There's not a lot of Argentina is just empty, and there's some beaches around Buenos Aires. And then you have Patagonia, which is a little bit far away. Argentina has really incredible beauty. You're gonna have to most likely get on a plane if you want to go see it if you're coming from Buenos Aires, as opposed to some other areas like in the States or in Colombia, for example, where you just have natural beauty just like at your footstep. That's something that I really like. And yeah, that's pretty much it. As far as cons or anything else like that, there's not really anything else I can really think of at the top of my head. I would say there's the general cons of being in Latin America. The general cons of things are a little bit slower. One thing I really hate is that everything closes here at 3 or 4 p.m. Like everything is open from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. and then it opens again. It reopens at 6 or 7 p.m. until 10 or 11 p.m. So it's like there's a period of time where they have like a siesta or whatever, where everything is closed. And I generally don't eat first thing in the morning. And so if I am like fasting, I generally will get hungry, for example, around 3 or 4 p.m. and everything is closed. So that's one thing I find annoying. It's like, I feel like every time I want to go and do something, it's closed. Also, yeah, like it's weird that, for example, coffee shops are closed early in the morning because just the people here. So another big con is if you're in a nightlife, which I'm not so much, but if you're in a nightlife, people will go out. They don't even start going out until 2 a.m., which is just like absurd. And then they stay up until 6 or 7 a.m. and they'll just keep going like forever and just completely fucks your sleep schedule up. And then if you notice, like on a weekend, Saturday or Sunday, nothing is moving until 4 or 5 p.m. Like everyone is at home sleeping the entire day, and then finally things start opening up and moving again. So they have a bit of a weird culture with stuff like that. But other than that, I really like it. I think I'm going to be moving on pretty soon. Maybe I'll go back to Colombia. Maybe I'll go to Brazil. Not really sure yet. But yeah, that's it for this video. If you have any questions on anything, like I said, you could drop a comment down below. Or a better way to reach me would be Instagram. I like answering people's questions because it helps me understand like what videos are useful to you and stuff like that. It helps give me ideas. So if there's something that you're concerned with, you want to figure out, just drop me a DM on Instagram. And yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and like, subscribe, all that stuff. See you next time. Peace.